Hey crafters, welcome to Creative Moments by G. I'm G, and today we are going to work with the pleated card. It's Technique Tuesday, and that is our technique that we're going to share with you. Now there's two different ways that you can create this pleated card, and we're going to show you both ways. Let's head down to the crafting table. Let's get started. Here is the first pleated card we're going to make. We're taking a little twist on it and we're doing it a little bit differently. A lot of times people call this a curtain card and they run it from the side. We're going to run it from the middle down, and I think it just really adds a real unique look to it. So, I always say, let's decide on our color palette first. Look at this beautiful pattern paper that I've selected, and it also has a beautiful design on the back side as well. I brought in Melon Mambo and Basic White because I'm going to take this side and I'm going to cut out some of these flowers and use it as decoration on the front of our card. The first thing we need to do is bring in our trimmer and go ahead and extend your arm if you're working with a Stampin' Up. And we cut our patterned paper 3 by 11. I want to remind you all the measurements are over on creativemomentsbyg.com, and then click on blog and you'll find everything you need to recreate this card. But we do need to make some score lines, and we're going to start with 1 and 1.5. So go ahead and put it in long ways on your trimmer. Now remember, this is patterned paper, so you have to be careful in how you score it. You can't score too heavy or you'll cut right through it. So we're going to do 1 and 1.5, 2 and then 3. Then we're going to score 3.5 and 4.5. We're going to score at 5, 6, and 6.5. Then 7.5, 8, and 9. And finally, one last score line at 9 and 1/2. Okay, so let's go ahead and put up our trimmer. And then I'm just going to go and find each score line, give it a little crease so that I know where all my score lines are. Okay, and once we have our score lines, we are just going to create one tick mark so that we can cut our diagonal cut. Very easy. So what you need to do is look at your card, and you have a middle part of this patterned paper. You see how we have this middle part right here? What we want to do is now measure up from the bottom 1.5 on both sides. I'm just going to use my ruler and measure it at 1.5, and I'm going to draw a line across. So I'm just going to put this straight, just like this, and then I'm going to make sure I'm staying right in this center point. And I'm just going to draw a line across, just like that. And now all you need to do is cut up right on that score line to your marked area, just like this. It is so easy. And now you see how it creates a flap? We're just going to fold that up for now, not to worry. And the reason we did this is we need to cut diagonally from this area right here to this bottom corner on both sides. So the only way to do that and get it in your canal on your trimmer is to cut this area up. Go ahead and just cut it with my scissors, just like this. And now we have that cut out. Now this is where we cut our diagonals. So let's go ahead and put the top of this area right here in the canal and swivel it to where the bottom right is in the canal. And now we're just going to slice. And you see how we cut that part off? Now all we have to do is the same thing on the other side. Put this area in your canal, swivel it until this bottom area is in the canal. We're cutting a diagonal. Go ahead and close it and cut. And now we have our beautiful curtain or pleated area, and now all we have to do is pleat it. So the easiest way to do this is identify that middle area again, and you see how we have a little 1/2 inch mark. We have a little 1/2 inch area, then we have an inch, then a 1/2 inch, then an inch, then a 1/2 inch. So all we're going to do is fold that down, and then we're going to fold that down, and we're going to keep folding down just like that. But as we do that, let's go ahead and grab our tape runner, and let's add a little piece of tape just at the top so that when you push it down, it holds it. And there we have it. Now we're just going to add a little piece of tape right here just at the top, and we're going to fold it over. Now you're folding it on top. You're folding it over. We're going to do the same thing here. And now we have this beautiful pleat. Now let's do the other side. We're going to put a little piece of tape right here, just on the top, and we're going to fold it over. The same thing right here. Put a little piece, and you're putting your tape on that little 1/2 inch, and you're folding it over. Okay, and now we have our pleat. Now what we need to do is we cut a first mat. Now remember, all these measurements are going to be listed over on Creative Moments by G. So what we need to do is fold this out, and we're just going to add it just like this, and about halfway up. Now the way you do that is you turn it over. I'm going to bring in our silicone mat so we don't get our workstation dirty. And I'm just going to take my tape runner and I'm going to go over the top, just like this. Just going to put it right at the top. I'm using the score lines on my workspace to make sure I get it straight. Now we're just taking this over. I'm going to put a little bit of tape right there and just fold this over. Just like that. Let's do the same thing. Just a little bit of tape and fold it over. And now we have our beautiful pleated area. And now all we need to do is decorate it. So we're going to bring in a portrait card, and it will be added right here. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and stamp my message right there. Now I am using a birthday celebration and unbounded love for sentiments. I'm going to bring my Night of Navy, and I'm going to put Make a Wish right here on the center. This is going to be a birthday card and so much fun. I showed you on the back side of this, we have those beautiful flowers. I went ahead and I just took some melon mambo and I colored them. I used the light on this one, I used the dark on this one, and let's see which one we want to add to the card. So this one's a little bigger. I think I like that one. So let's go ahead and add dimensionals to set it up just a little bit. Let's just get this centered. Now that I have this set up, I went ahead and I embossed just a little strip of Night of Navy, and I'm going to add that to the front of the card just to give this a more finished look. And now let's add our beautiful flowers. Now we're just going to add some paper to the inside of our card. And we're going to stamp a message. And this is just going to say happy birthday. So tap, tap, tap. Now I cut that other one off so you can actually add it right here at the top. You could add it at the bottom. I think I'm going to add it at the top and just cut around the edges. That is another great tip. And I'm just going to cut off the tip. And here is our first pleated card, or you could call it a curtain card if you want. This is where the middle of it recedes. It goes up instead of coming down. But we want to show you the other way that you can make this pleated card too. Now make sure you stay with us to the end because we have some other cards and variations to show you that we think you're really going to like. And if you are getting some inspiration for this, we sure would love it if you'd take a moment, subscribe, like, and share with your crafty friends. We just appreciate y'all so much. So let's bring in everything that we have for our new card. Now this time we're bringing in cheerful daisies. We're going to use these images and then we may stamp this or we may use a new sentiment. I haven't decided yet. We picked our color palette. We picked this beautiful pattern paper filled with daisies, some pecan pie, daffodil delight. Now on this pattern paper, remember we have a few score lines that we need to make. So go ahead and bring in your trimmer. And whether you do this cut or you decide to do this one, they're very different, but they have the exact same score lines. Make sure that you have your cutting blade out of the way, and let's go ahead and score at 1.5, 2, and 3. Now we're going to score at 3.5, 4.5, and 5. Now we're going to score at 6, 6.5, and 7.5. Now we're finishing up with 8, 9, and 9.5. Okay, so let's go ahead and fold and crease our card, just so we can see where everything is. Just feeling to see, because it is hard to see where you scored your line when you have pattern paper like this. So my tip to you is go ahead and choose the light colored side of your patterned paper and then feel with your fingers, and it makes it a little bit easier. Now we have our score lines where we can see them just a little bit better. And what we want to do is we have our middle point right here. We want to bring in our ruler. Right here on the end, we are going to go up 1.5, and we're just going to put a little tick mark that we can see. You can erase that later on. Just put a little tick mark right there. And now we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to also put a tick mark at 1.5. And now all we're doing is we're cutting from this tick mark down to this middle mark right here. See, here's our middle again. We scored at 5 inches and it's 6 inches. But you can tell this is the middle, right? Because it folds just like that. So let's bring in our trimmer. Let's put our 1.5 inch tick mark, which we put on the side, very easy. Put that in the canal. Find your middle point, which is right here, and just rotate it to be in the canal. So we have our tick mark up here. We have our middle 6-inch line right there, and we're just going to slice. And now we're just going to slice from the 1.5 inch mark here to this line right here, which is the 5-inch score line, if you need to think of it that way. So we have our score line right here. I'm going to put it in the canal, and then I'm just rotating up to the 1.5 inch mark and slice. And now we have our cut. And you see how it's longer here in the middle? And now, because we want this middle part, and there's so many different ways to fold, you just need to play. You might want to go ahead and just fold under, just like this. And it creates this fold. But you can't see the back side of the paper at all when you fold under, under, under. But what if we did this? What if we folded under and then we folded on top? Then all of a sudden you can see just a little bit of the gray right here. So really it's your preference. How do you want it to look? We're going to go ahead and just keep it with our daisies on top. So we're going to fold it under just like that. Now I'm going to bring in my silicone mat, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some tape at the top of these little bitty 1/2 inch folds right there. You can see each one. We have 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to put a little bit of tape right there. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're just folding. We're folding over, go over, and fold over again. And there we have our beautiful pleat. Now let's do the same thing to this one. Okay, so we're going to find those little bitty areas, and we're just going to put a little bit of tape right there at the top, right at the top in 3 places. And that is those little bitty areas. So we're going to fold, we're going to fold, and we're going to fold over. So now we have our pleated area, and we are ready to add it to our mat. Now remember I said that our mat, we are going to use this beautiful brown pecan pie coloring. And so we're going to add it just like this. But to do that, remember, we need to go ahead and we need to add some tape to the back. So let's just go ahead, add our tape. I'm just going to turn this. Make sure that we get enough. Okay, now before I put this on my card, just like that, we need to fold these edges over. So we're just going to make sure we have enough tape on there. Fold them over. We will be setting this up on some dimensionals just like this. And if you want this taped down just a little more, all you have to do is just put some tape and squish it down. I also cut a strip of green, just old olive. Now on this one, I'm going to go ahead and put it up on dimensionals so that it matches the height of our pleat. So let's grab some dimensionals. And another little tip is I'm just going to set them up right there. And because these are octagon, I can just put the straight edge right there. Just going to put a couple. Take off the backing. I didn't emboss it, I just kept it as a straight piece of cardstock, but look at how pretty that looks. Now we want to go ahead and add this right to the top of our card. And like I said, I'm going to add some dimensionals on the back. And I want this to be white because I want to stamp a message. And so let's go ahead and measure this and see what size we need it to be. And we need it to be 1 7/8. So we're going to bring in our Night of Navy. And I have this beautiful message. You're pretty wonderful. Tap, tap, tap. While we have that open, let's go ahead and stamp the inside of our card. And look at how pretty this looks. We're looking beautiful. Now, I went ahead and I used that stamp set I showed you, and I used their dies, and I cut out some beautiful leaves and some daisies. And we want to add these right here to the front, just like this. Add this to the inside and we will be done. Now this is a top fold. Now let's look at the two different styles. Which do you prefer? Take a moment and leave a comment. Do you like the pleats going down, or do you like them cutting up into the center like this? Which is your style that you prefer? What's so great about these is that they both use the same measurements. Now let's take a look at some other pleated cards that we put together. We showed you this beautiful one. We just used our pattern paper for the little belt that goes on top. We stamped our message. We kept it very simple. We let the stamp set do all the work for us. Here is a masculine card, Thinking of You. We pleated it the short way, opened it up, did a few mats inside. I showed you this one. This one we jazzed up just a little bit. We used our pattern paper up here, as well as a different colored cardstock that coordinated with these beautiful flowers. We stamped some flowers here. And finally, look at this adorable Make-A-Wish card. Now this one we embossed the belt. This we folded a little bit differently. This one we folded down, down. This one we folded up. And you can see that you can see the other side just a little bit. So you can play with these different kinds of pleats, whether you fold down or you fold up, really does give it a different look. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We hope that you were inspired by this pleated card. We certainly love it because there's so many different ways to fold it. We'd love it if you take a moment, subscribe, share, and like with your crafty friends and help us grow. Well, until next time, Maddie and I wish you lots of creative moments. Bye-bye.